If you are into learning different languages, if you really fancy languages in general, this is the right place to listen to. My name is Daniel Goodson and this is My Fluent Podcast. For more information, please head over to myfluentpodcast.com.
Si vous souhaitez améliorer vos techniques d'apprentissage de langue, écoutez My Fluent Podcast.
In this episode, I'm gonna show you one of my learning techniques which I use to learn or memorize different vocabulary. And you have to bear in mind while learning vocabulary that there are two different kinds of vocabulary acquisition. So you can learn vocabulary in a rather passive way or an active way. Learning in an active way means for me that I'm using the words, the vocabulary in a speech, or I use the words actively by writing it down and actually using it. The passive way would be just to try remain the vocabulary just for the sake of learning something. So, by other words, not using the vocabulary anymore. I think I couldn't explain it very well, so I'm trying it again. So for me, we have an active vocabulary which we are able to use in real life, but on the other hand, we have a much larger vocabulary which we can only use in a passive way, meaning that we can understand the meaning of the word when we come across by listening to it, for example, or by reading, but we couldn't use it on our own when actually speaking to other persons. And that's actually the reason why I sometimes decide to learn some vocabulary which I actually know. I know about the meaning, but these are vocabulary which I want to use actively, and that's why I put the focus on some of them. So the very first step is to pick a resource, and that could be any source you are particularly fancy of. So it could be an audiobook which you really like, or that could be the news, or even a radio show. It really depends on your focus. And so that's why I have decided to use a podcast as my source. The good thing with podcast is that many of them provide transcripts, which can help you a lot while learning a language. In my case, I picked a horror movie podcast, and they don't have any transcripts, but I don't care, because that way I will be even more focused than on the listening part. The reason why I have chosen this source is firstly because the subject is of interest of mine, and secondly, there are many different voices on the podcast, which makes it even more difficult. It's an American podcast, so the accent is from America. And then you have a lot of colloquial expressions which you use in daily life, and that's something I want to learn by myself. And there are also a lot of phrasal verbs, of course, and these are my main reasons.
Hi, and welcome to Horror Movie Podcast, where we're dead serious about horror movies. We have a bi-weekly show that's released every other Friday, and this is episode 97, a special themed episode where we're going to be discussing horror movies for little monsters. On Horror Movie Podcast, you generally hear in-depth horror movie reviews, especially for new releases, with ratings and recommendations that'll help you decide whether you should buy, rent, or avoid these movies. And I am your host, Jay of the Dead, podcasting from Salt Lake City, and my co-hosts tonight are
Dave Dave Dr. Shock Becker from just outside Philadelphia, PA.
And Wolfman Josh, Jay. Wolfman's got
So after I've chosen my resource, I download the MP3 file to my computer and to my mobile phone, and then I put it on my application called Smart Repeat. And Smart Repeat enables you to select and repeatedly listen to only a designated section of a tune or an audiobook. So the method I'm using is also applicable with other programs. The main thing is that the application can put a bookmark. It's actually no rocket science, you know. So I am enjoying myself by listening to great podcasts, and then from time to time I put a bookmark when I come across a fantastic vocabulary I want to retain or a sentence that I am fancy of. When I've finished listening to the podcast, I go through all my bookmarks again, and then I look the different words up in a dictionary, or sometimes in different dictionaries, because you have different informations in different dictionaries. So the introduction you heard was episode 97 of the Horror Movie Podcast, which has a duration of over 3 hours. That's incredible. You have a lot of words you can learn over there. And in this particular case, I have put about 15 bookmarks. So be wise on that and don't pick too many bookmarks. Otherwise, you will easily be overwhelmed and it will be counterproductive. You won't learn that much. And now I want to show you the second bookmark I have set.
We weren't allowed to see it, and I was kind of freaked out. So we were in the kitchen, but we kept peeking, around the corner at the TV, and we would catch little glimpses. And man, that changes a person.
And the focus lies here on "we kept peeking." I wanted to retain this vocabulary, and to remind me of my focus by myself, I jot down on a piece of paper, or I am using Evernote as well. I jot down my focus with all the information I found on the internet. In addition, I give indication of the time when it comes up.
But we kept peeking,
Then you can repeatedly listen to the bookmarks you have set before. And the good thing also here is that you can hear the intonation they are using, and you also know the context. And the context will help you as well to retain the vocabulary. And the trick here is to organize all of this in a way that allows you in the future to re-listening and to relearn all these things. Because sometimes procrastination is not bad, in my view. No, not at all. It helps you, because it will help you to retain vocabulary forever. In addition, always try to speak the words out loud. This will enable you as well to retain the information. You can train your mouth muscles and will pronounce the words even better. Well, that's it for today. Thank you very much for tuning in. I'm your host, Daniel Goodson. Have a good one.